You know, the funny story about the mission trails, a lot of those trails used to be smuggling trails. It used to be private land.
What do? Do you just, oh crap, that happened to me, I hope it never happens again? Or do you prepare yourself in some way, form, or fashion, right? Whether it's a self-defense class at a gym, or whether it's going to the range and learning how to operate a weapon properly.
We're very pro LEO. We're obviously, veteran, but I mean, we have all these Border Patrol guys. And I remember I kind of was always like, we need to make a beer for them or something like that. And I think Luis was the one that was just like, fuck yeah, we need to make a beer for them.
Gentlemen, welcome to the ranch. Welcome to Delta Oaks Ranch podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'd like to start, if you gentlemen would like to introduce yourselves first. Who would like to go first?
Shit.
Yeah, you got it.
Come on, guys, don't be shy.
Kevin Jackson. So I'm one of the owners of 5x5 Brewing Company. Started, I guess we kind of pride ourselves on our military experience, so we can kind of start from there. So I entered active duty service with the Army back in 2006. Went infantry. I was with the 10th Mountain Division. Did my few years, quick tour in Iraq. Got out, joined the Army National Guard, Texas Army National Guard down in Weslaco. Went to Japan with that one once, which was fun, and then also went to Afghanistan with them as well, which was fun too. So.
Well, thank you for your service. First of all, you hit on something. Is it the 10th Mountain Division based out in Colorado?
No,
or they have a base or something there, or
they used to be there at the base out there, but now I think they were inactivated for a while. I think during World War II they were out there at Fort Carson, and then they were reactivated back in like the 80s, I think, because of Bob Dole, because Bob Dole was one of their I guess
supporters.
Well, he was in the service during World War II.
Yeah.
And so they ended up opening up with 10th Mountain Division up in Fort Drum, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a brigade down in Fort Polk, Louisiana. Or not sure what the names of the bases are these days anymore, but that's what it used to be.
Yeah, because I know I've seen something Mountain Division out there in Colorado.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were talking about going on the way towards Gunnison somewhere.
Yeah, so the founder of Vail Ski Resort was also a veteran of the 10th Mountain Division in World War II. And so
interesting.
So all the Vail resort areas, actually they give a really good military discount. If you got to get on it right away, but it's like it's pretty insane what they do. And it has to do with that.
So how many years of service?
Still ticking, right?
Yeah, I'm still taking. So I'm actually in the Army Reserve still. So I reserve out in El Paso right now is where I drill at. So I've got about, I guess, what is that, 19 years?
Okay.
About 19 years, 2006 to 2025. So.
And how do you find the Rio Grande Valley as far as being supported for the military folks?
Yeah. Oh man, the Valley is just like, you get down here, it's just everybody down here in the RGV. I think it's either they were in the military, their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, uncles, mom, dad, it's like 1 degree separation of someone being in the military service of some sort. So
yeah. So you enjoying the Rio Grande Valley?
Oh, I love it down here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it is a great place. So what's your version, I guess, if you haven't caught on, it's like, that icon, what they call it, the 956 or 956.
Yeah.
How do you acclimate to that, or haven't you, or do you consider yourself now, do you claim the 956?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when I got out of active duty, so I was born and raised in the Houston area, like outside of Houston. Met my wife when I was at Texas A&M. I didn't do any of the ROTC programs or stuff there. I just decided to join, the Army after I watched 9/11 happen. I was just like, I'm just gonna go join up. And my wife was born and raised down here. And we'd come down and visit, and I always liked it. I just don't like the big cities. There's too much traffic, it's too congested. So when we were looking for places, we kind of were just like, maybe here, maybe there. And then it was just like, well, why don't we just go down to the RGV?
Yeah.
Let's go move down to the Valley. I was like, I like it down there.
Yeah.
And so we moved down there. But I on my side, I come from a big Catholic family, where, I have all these cousins and aunts and uncles that I have no idea who they are. And my mom will be like, that's your cousin. And I'm like, how? Yeah, so it's like
Sounds
some of that big family and stuff is very, kind of similar down here. Plus, we're kind of more from a Germanic side on my mom's side, so we still have accordion music.
Really?
Tex-Mex isn't that far off from polka.
No, it's not. The accordion
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I got some stories that 'cause my son plays the accordion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, after I got out of 10th Mountain and we moved down here, that's 2010, so we've been down here for about we had a small stint in Florida, but we've been down here for about 15 years.
Okay.
So yeah, my kids are here. I mean, I'm Bodo 956 now.
Yeah, there you go. Put on 956. Yeah, well, welcome to Delta Oaks.
Thank you.
So, do you do any more training in the mountains? Do you do any hiking and? Well, because there's no mountains here,
well, there's no mountains. There's really no mountains around Fort Drum either. So it's 10th Mountain Division is just a light infantry unit. It's just in the name, and there's certainly no mountains in Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so it's just more of a name thing on there. But I do like the outdoors. I like going out and doing hikes and stuff, and I do the military stuff too. So I think this next year I'm thinking about doing the Baton Death March.
Yeah,
as well. So
because it's really challenging to stay fit and do outdoor activities in the valley. There is some things out there, right? But it's I think just a tad more challenging than other places.
Oh yeah, like I was telling you before, I live out in the Lynn-Summonwell area where my wife was raised up at.
Yeah,
and so I've got I got an old mountain bike I'll take down on the Calicia Road, or I'll just go running on that as well. I had to get some thicker soles on my shoes because some of those Calicia rocks kind of hurt. Okay. And I carry a 22 pistol around with me when I go running because of the rattlesnakes.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Or if I see a coyote and it's maybe like 100 yards out, I'll take one of those like flare style shots just to see if I can get it.
Have you seen that pistol put out by Ruger? It's called the Coyote Special. Yeah. It's a 380, and I think what was his name? The governor.
Yeah. Was that one with Rick Perry?
Yes, Rick Perry. I bought that one, and sometimes I carry it when I go hiking because it's so easy. You can just carry it. Not a fan of the 380.
Yeah.
But when I go biking or hiking or whatever, it's just you can just hide it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's called the Coyote Special. And you kind of jogged my memory when I said that. Yeah.
Oh no, I found a Keltec, and it's like just all polymer. It's 22. It's super light. And then it's got and I just buy the 22 rat shot. Oh. Rat shot for the first, then after that it's like regular 22, and that'll usually take out a rattlesnake.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome to the ranch, Kevin. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Luis Espindola. I'm not originally from Texas, but don't hold that against me. I've been here since 2000.
Oh, man. So where are you from?
Originally from Southern California. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Actually, my dad was an underwater welder. So we lived in Louisiana for a few years, from like 2 to 7 or 8 years old. And then, so I was in the Marine Corps out there, stationed in Camp Pendleton. When I got out in 2013, kind of fell flat on my face. I was in the process for LAPD, LAX PD, Southgate PD, and it takes forever to get a background investigator. So there's a guy that I wear on my wrist that's from Orange Grove, Texas. I don't know if you guys know where that's at. Yes. It's just a little bit north from here. Yeah. Amazing community. So I came out here. We lost him in 2010 in one of my Afghan deployments. And I just came out for a visit. They did a memorial roping for him every single year. And met some amazing people. They told me about this little thing called the oilfield. I had no idea what it was. They told me, yeah, you can make some money. So after the memorial, went back to LA and was still just waiting. And I ran out of money. Like, as a human being, I didn't have anything left. So I ended up messaging some people that I met on Facebook. Told my wife, say, hey, I'm going out to Texas. So by the time I got to Orange Grove, I landed here. I had $60 to my name. Like, that's it. That's all that I had as a person. My wife was doing her own thing. She had her own job. But me, that's all the money that I had left in the world. And the community took me in. I landed with some amazing people, Chris Simmons, the Russ family, and the Kiroff family up there. And they put me to work. They put me to work right away, and spent about 3 years in the oil field.
Okay.
Doing that, worked my ass off as much as I could. Brought my wife out to visit, during that time. I said, hey, I think you got to come visit this place. That was the Corpus Christi area.
3 years in the oil field business. That's like 10 years in regular careers, right?
It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but I loved it. Everyone likes to say the military teaches you good work ethic, and it does, but there's nothing like being at a Stripes at 4:45 a.m., seeing all the white diesel trucks draining their Yetis and seeing everybody just going to work. And it's a cool community if you've ever been able to experience that. These guys work their asses off.
Yeah.
So yeah, my wife moved out. We bought a house in Corpus Christi. We were there for a little while. Ended up moving down here a few years ago due to her job. She got a federal position down here. So yeah, man, it's been an amazing journey here in Texas. Texas, you were asking him if he considers himself, part of the 956. I don't know how long you have to be here to consider yourself a Texan, but hopefully.
That's a good question we need to put on the podcast there, Roland.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. So what would the locals consider? Hey, you can consider yourself a puro 956 if you've been here, I don't know, a year, 2 years,
or if you get the haircut, right?
Or you get. I'll skip on the haircut.
You get the what's it called? The Takashi haircut.
I think we should have different classifications of puro 956, right?
Or if you what is it? You drive a single cab truck on 26-inch rims.
Yeah, something like that. Well, we all claim it, and I'm very proud to be from the Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah.
Before, it's changed area codes. Now it's 956.
Oh, really? What was it before?
That's 6-1, right?
My memory back in the 70s. I'm going to be 54. I remember it was 512.
Oh.
And now I think 512 belongs to the Austin
area.
Yeah.
Oh, but 512 goes down to Laredo. That's right.
Yeah. So it used to be 512, then became 210.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was, late 80s ish, not early 90s. And don't quote me, everybody, but this is, as best of my memory. And then it became 956 after that.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in college, I had friends down in, I think the Harlingen area, and I would call them. I thought it was 361 still.
Yeah.
For that area. So it might have even changed from there.
Yeah. I don't recall it ever being 361.
Okay.
I've only recalled 512, 210.
Because Corpus is 361, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I thought maybe Corpus had drawn down to there, or maybe that's just maybe that's just where they had a phone.
Yeah.
Well, like where my wife was at in Lynn Summon Wells, she said that she couldn't even call into Edinburgh because it was long distance.
Yeah. So I'm going to show my age a little bit. I even remember people with their cell phones, when they would pick their number, being from the Rio Grande Valley, they would try to get an area code, like a prefix, not after the area code, but the prefix, like the 532, 261, all those numbers after the area code, close to the most people that you thought you were going to be calling. If not, it was going to be long distance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I remember that, and now it doesn't matter, right? Everybody, whatever, prefix number. So it's the area code, then the number, then, the regular last 4 digits. But that doesn't matter anymore. I mean, everything's now a local call. There's even plans, I think, you can make international calls. It doesn't matter, or something like that. But anyway, so what I would like to know, guys, how you got here as soon as you could, I guess, in your own way, right? To be from Texas and be from the 956. How did you start, or how did the big idea of creating the brewery, the 5x5? I mean, how does that happen?
So on our side of the house, we're some of the newer partners. I bought in last year, and you guys were around the same time, right?
Yeah, I think maybe like 6 months more, not that much longer, but yeah.
So the thing with 5x5 was created by someone called George Rice. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure your audiences are going to know who he is. He had this idea to just create good beer based around veterans coming together.
Who is George Rice? I've never heard of him. Or
George Rice. So he's the original owner, founder of 5x5. He's the one that kind of came up with the idea.
Also a 10th Mountain Division.
Also a 10th Mountain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's who it is. So we're kind of taking his dream and taking it a little bit further. He decided he wanted to spend a little bit more time with the family, and essentially that's the American dream, right? Build something, sell it, and move on to whatever your next venture is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where he's at in life, which is good. It's good for him, and that's kind of what we all kind of hope for. Yeah. So 5x5 itself exists right now because of him, and then it's our job, after taking the company and just taking it further as much as we can.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we were fans before we even becoming owners. So it was just, they always made good beer. It was always a good community. And that's what kind of,
So how many owners or people are affiliated with the 5x5?
So right now, I'd say we have 4 managing partners?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say we have about 4 managing partners that are part of the day-to-day operations. And then we have some other silent investors.
Yeah.
Kind of helped start the whole thing. And
is it 7 total, I think?
yeah.
So we've got, I'll usually have to count them out by service types, right? So I think we have 3 Army veterans. We've got 3 Marine veterans.
Right.
And then two, that's 8. So 2 Navy veterans.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of where we're at.
Well, I always look up to people like that, and I admire them because I love people or respect people that go out there and do it.
Right.
You've been in the military. You've probably heard of the theme, but never ring the bell.
Yeah.
Right. You never quit.
Yeah.
Right.
And that really strikes a chord on me. I've been, I've been a border patrol agent. I early retired. That's another story. But I've had so many challenges in my life, right? And so have other people, right? Everybody's a different story and so forth. So when I see successful people that go out there and do the challenge, like you guys, and you started the brewery, and you step up to the plate, right? You don't quit. You don't quit. You go out there. What does it take? You get up every day, meet those challenges, and get it done, right? So I admire that, and that strikes a big chord in me.
Yeah.
And my spirit decor, right? And my philosophy in life.
I agree. Like I said, I showed up here with nothing, and just
there you go.
It's kind of the best way that I can put it is, what are you going to do when you have nothing? And are you going to stay there? Or are you just going to kick it in? And like you said, ring the bell or try to make something with it. And
yeah,
fortunately, I do have to give a lot of credit to this state because of what it's allowed me to do. I don't think that, at first, and I'll go off on a slight tangent here, I kind of felt like a failure when I first left California. I was like, that's my city. Left everything that I knew, and I couldn't make it. I just, for whatever reason, either I didn't try hard enough, or I don't know what it was, but I couldn't make it in my own state, my own city.
What were you trying? Why did you fail? A brewery or a business?
No. Just to find a regular job when you get out of the military. So I was 23 when I got out. I was like, well, I'm just gonna go be a cop.
Okay. Well, what was your MOS then?
I was an infantry. I was an infantryman. So hey,
law enforcement would have been.
It's tough when you're getting out as infantry to be like, well, what can I do now? And it's like basically the 2 easiest things are like oilfield and law enforcement. Which really law enforcement isn't even really an infantry thing, because you're coming out of being more of an aggressive,
right? You're a little bit more
offensive actions,
customer service.
Yeah, I think for my audience, there's a lot of people that perhaps don't know what that is. You want to explain what MOS is?
Right. So it's a military occupational specialty. So whenever you're joining the military, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can get persuaded by a recruiter to go a certain way. Persuaded is trying to keep it politically correct.
You're a diplomat.
Yeah. Or if the recruiter does his job right, he'll kind of sit you down and say, what is it that you want to do? Right. And offer you as many positions as that recruiter has the ability to do so, right? Based on the slot and things like that. So yeah, you pick a job. But for me, being a Marine was always in the books for me. I knew, I think 8 years old, like that's what I was going to do. You guys talk about the culture in Southern California. Everybody knows somebody that goes down to Camp Pendleton for a Marine Corps graduation. I had a couple of uncles that were in the Marines, and I just knew, that was something that I was going to do. And luckily I was able to accomplish that. So yeah, that's what MOS is.
Yeah. So going back to, you just felt you didn't have the support, or you didn't have opportunity in California to make it?
No.
Or what happened there?
It was tough. It was tough just rent wise and cost of living wise. Even in 2013, things just weren't working out, and having that one track mind. I don't want to say the military does a bad job of setting guys up for when they're leaving, but there's always something that can be done better, right? It's not a perfect organization.
Yeah.
And I don't want to disparage it in any way, but when you leave, and I remember getting my DD 214 and leaving base, and I thought, can I curse on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought, oh fuck, I remember leaving. I remember thinking it was a huge mistake. I should have stayed, because what happens is, especially as a younger kid, I joined when I was 17. I was 17 for 4 months when I actually went to boot camp. You get programmed, you get paid on the 1st and the 15th. That money's coming. That money's coming, no matter what. And, maybe it's personal. Maybe I didn't do my finances the right way at the time. But, when that check stops coming, you start to panic. Especially, I was married. I've been married 2008, whatever the math is on that.
Yeah, but I think that comes from a sense of responsibility that not a lot of people have it ingrained in them.
Right.
Because, you're saying I can relate to that.
Right.
If that check ain't coming or whatever, you have that sense of responsibility. So that means you're a responsible person. Because on the flip side, I've seen people, they don't give a rat's ass.
Yeah.
You know, they'll ruin their credit, they recover their cars and all that. So, you know, so I have my own difference of opinion on that. So you're a good, responsible person.
Try to be, you know, you're right. I think for most of us, at least the people that I surround myself with, it's not an option to not make money. It's not an option to not work. What the hell are you going to do, you know, to make those ends meet and to not disappoint your family ultimately, especially if you have one. If you're by yourself, I guess there's some wiggle room in there to, you know, go live on the beach for a couple weeks. But when you have a family, it's all up to you and you got to make it happen.
Well, even as a business owner, now you guys are business owner.
Yeah.
So you understand that all those people that work for you, they're counting on you because every person that works for you has a family to feed.
Exactly.
Right. So I can completely understand and relate to that.
Yeah.
I'm curious though. So going back to Southern California, I love California. I visited. It's a beautiful state, the actual state, but not the cities.
Right.
I've been down the coastline and you know the country, beautiful, right? But it's not Texas,
right?
And Texas, I feel, has a very different demeanor to it. You know, so much different history. Me personally, on one side of my family, the roots go deep. You know, like I think the last count we had 7 generations. In Central Texas,
That's awesome.
Yeah, on my mother's side, on my maternal side, south of San Antonio, in the Campbellton, Pleasanton area.
Okay.
And there's an old cemetery there where some of my family members are buried, and I've taken my kids out there. But anyway, so it's got a different demeanor, right, in Texas compared to California. Does California have its own version of perhaps of Puro 956 feeling or Cord the Spirit or something?
Yeah, definitely. The cities kind of hate each other, and for various different reasons. Whether
they hate each other,
whether it's a baseball team, you know, or you're a Dodgers fan, or whether it's, you know,
well, we kind of have that here.
Yeah, there's, or you know, there is the neighborhood culture as well out there. You know, there's different. I got exposed to that a little bit as a child. You know, some of my family members were, I wouldn't say gang members, but you know, they were involved in things like that, and so I got to notice it a little bit. So yes, to answer your question, there is a little bit of, you know, animosity between things and pride and where exactly you're from inside of California. I don't want to speak for all Californians, right? But
yeah, of course,
that's just my experience.
Yeah, you don't have to, man. Tupac and Dre already did. They have a whole song about it.
Yeah, no, they do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I think here in the Rio Grande Valley, the 956, regardless of who you are or what have you, whatever, we kind of have a tendency, we'll get behind each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And we do have our differences, and you'll see it where the titter-tatter, well, this, are you blue, are you red, or what have you. But at the end of the day, I think we'll come together, right? And I think that's important, and I think that's unique. You know, and it's worked against us sometimes. There's a different, I guess, point of view of it. But I was just curious if California or Southern California had something similar, you know, like that.
Yeah, there's pride. There's definitely pride there for sure. You know, the people that are there, you know, I still love my Dodgers, right? You know, it's probably gonna hurt ourselves a little bit, but yeah, there's a sense of where you come from, and I think that's probably true around the country. You know, home is home. You know, whether it's Idaho, New York, or wherever, you know, home is always going to be home. And, you know, wherever, if you stay there, great. You know, if you go somewhere else, you're always going to have a little bit of longing. Like, home is home.
So, are you willing to, or what are you willing to talk about as far as your military occupation? Do you want to expand on anything on that?
Yeah, so after, you know, oilfield, I ended up as a private military contractor for the State Department in Afghanistan. And I've been doing that style of work ever since, probably since 2015, you know, up till this day. I'm still leaving and going and leaving and coming home. And
so you're still kind of semi-active?
Not on the active duty side for the military, just active.
But privately?
Privately, yes.
Okay,
active,
got it.
Privately, yeah.
Yeah, well, whenever you're willing that you've kind of stopped, if you ever want to talk about some stories, I'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something we want to do, those stories.
Right. Yeah, I don't know when those NDAs expire, probably a long time from now. So guys that write books and make movies, they end up getting a lot of trouble. But, you know, there are some subjects that, you know, at least maybe my opinion politically later on. We can talk about it on another podcast.
Yeah, I'd love to, because we do have a lot of military folks here, and I think it's a topic we should discuss because it's a form of pride and for our community to know. One of the persons, me personally, that I always looked up to as a war hero, and he lived in Corpus, was Benavides, the Purple Heart recipient. Are you familiar with him?
I think he's Medal of Honor recipient.
There you go, Medal of Honor. There you go.
Roy Benavides. Huh?
Yeah,
He's
what a hero.
The real life Rambo.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard his story?
No.
Ooh, I think
he was a real Rambo.
I think President Reagan read it off at this Medal of Honor ceremony. I mean, it's jaw dropping like what this guy did.
That's cool.
This guy took I don't know how many rounds and was saving soldiers, picking them up, putting them in get to the chopper.
Yeah.
Like literally, dude. And then took the weapon from one of the the enemy guys and used it against. It's just like a movie.
Yeah.
And then he had to go back and get, I think, some classified documents.
Yeah.
And then they thought he was dead. They zipped him up.
Yeah.
And he was like, crap, there. Like he couldn't, I think something had happened. I think it was shrapnel or something. He couldn't speak, couldn't do anything. Finally, right as they're zipping him up, thinking that he's dead, he finally was able to cough a little bit of blood up.
Well,
and they're like, holy crap, this guy's still alive.
I think he spit at him.
Yeah, he spit it at him.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm not dead.
Just to get their attention.
Yeah.
Dude, it's amazing.
Awesome story. And he was a Green Beret at the time.
Green Beret. Yeah, he was a
Green
SF
Beret.
guy.
And so he was the real deal.
I believe he's originally from Cuero, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Why isn't there a movie about this guy?
I know.
Right?
I don't know, man. It's called Rambo.
Probably.
Yeah, and he was Mexican American heritage.
I think he's first generation, actually. I think too.
Yeah. So stories like that, I would love to hear them. I love those type of stories.
I was coming back from drill one time. And I hate, especially doing drill. I hate traveling in my uniform. But like one time, it's just like I had a real tight flight. Flew back in. I had some. I usually don't check my bags either, but I had bags to check. So I went and go get those, and there was a bunch of older Marines, clearly Vietnam veteran kind of era guys. And they're just kind of hanging out at the carousel at McAllen Airport. And one of the guys comes up to me and, does the whole thank you for your service. And I'm like, I just came back from drill. I basically just sat around and then probably did a whole lot of nothing, for a weekend, paperwork and, admin crap and stuff like that. And so, I see that they're Marines, and I was like, oh, you guys going to come out to go look at the Iwo Jima monument or something? I don't know what Marines are going to do out here. Yeah. And he goes, no, we all came out here. The guy that we served with in Vietnam, his mom's getting this award, and we were going to come out here and support her. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then I kind of look at him, I go, who was the guy you served with, by the way? And he goes, oh man, Freddie Gonzalez. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was, did that like,
that's really
I was
cool.
like, you thanking me for my service? I was like, he goes, oh, you know him? I was like, everybody down here knows Freddie's story. Yeah. I was like,
another great story.
Great story. I mean, you can go to the Museum of South Texas History and see it again too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just learn about it. And of course, his mom was very active. So my daughter first went to Freddie Gonzalez Elementary, and his mom was always out there supporting that elementary school. So.
Yeah. So those are very great stories from the 956 that, we should, kind of praise and talk more about it and so forth. But let's go back. I'm kind of curious, guys. So you weren't from the area. You got here as soon as you could to become Texans and from the 956 at that. So how do you start a business? Because, we're very unique.
Right.
And I've had other guests and on the respective, industry they're from. It's challenging to make it here in the Rio Grande Valley. Very challenging. So you guys weren't from here. So how did you acclimate to the 956, to the Rio Grande Valley, and make it successful? Give me your story. I mean, how'd you do it?
I mean, honestly, so I look at the RGV as being almost like an island, right? Because I mean, you think about, especially like, 70, I was about to say 50 years ago, but that's really not that long ago anymore. But, 70, 80, even 100 years ago, like think about how disconnected, the RGV was from, San Antonio or Houston, that triangle that they call whatever. And so like everyone down here is an island. So there's like probably 3 degrees of separation from almost everybody. You've got a family member, or someone who knows someone, something like that. So like from Brownsville all the way through Mission, Edinburgh, McAllen, like that area, there's just you have that history, but there's that big family environment of it as well too. And so, like I said, I came from a big family, nothing like down here, but at least kind of helped me get those little baby steps on that. But just kind of like as I've started, I would make little weltas around the ranch with my father-in-law, who was also a transplant down here, but he kind of like me was always interested in the history. I'd go make the weltas with my wife's grandfather, who was, from Falfurrias, and, we used to be a cowboy back in the, Depression era and stuff like that. And was very successful down here, and just listening to the stories that they had. And that, it was, like you said, tough work as being a cowboy probably back in the, 20s and 30s and stuff like that in that area. But just, you start to get you start seeing some of these connections and kind of how they work. And like, honestly, that's a little bit of the secret to the RGV, is just that, if you're trying to find a way to go through someone, is just start reaching out. It's all about networking down here more than anywhere else, because everybody down here knows everybody in some form or fashion. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah. No, you find that connection. Oh, my mother-in-law is, blah, blah, blah. And, oh yeah, no, I remember. Yeah. We used to be in this organization together, or we used to do this together, or her mom and my mom used to always do this together. And that's the kind of, if you build that relationship.
So Kevin, how did you break that first one then?
You just understand the relationship, and you fall right into the relationship. Okay. Everything's about relationships.
You felt you got embraced and accepted.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Based off, yeah. I mean, like I said, I feel like I'm a part of, my in-laws.
You didn't encounter any, racism is like, hey, you're not one of us, or?
No, not at all. Well, although people are very surprised to find out that I was born and raised Catholic. I was like, no, my mom was so Catholic that she was just like, as soon as I met my wife, she was like, oh my gosh, she's Catholic. And I was like, yeah. But which my mom found out I was dating her, because she called me one day when I was at A&M on a Sunday, and she's like, what are you doing? I said, I just left church. And she kind of pauses for a second. She goes, are you dating someone? I was like,
yeah, that giveaway there.
Yeah. So, but no, it's all about the family thing, and that relationship is strong.
It is.
I've been fortunate that I have a great set of in-laws that are also, have a lot of, they have a big circle of family and friends around them too. And I've been able to fall in on that. And no, I don't think any of the racism has been on that.
So what would you mention 3 barriers? So that's the first one. What's the second one, guys? Or that you would consider? What's it?
Probably also that goes along with the RGV is that it's, I'd say there's sometimes like, there's a, how do you say it? Like a ghosting sometimes, like, people don't want to deliver bad news. I feel like, like people don't like to say no. So instead of saying no, they just won't say anything at all.
Right. Which I've noticed a lot just in general when you're a business owner.
Yeah, that never happens.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No.
Yeah. People will be like, oh, that's great. And then you kind of follow up on it. And then it's just like, no response. So that's something you gotta be like, and after, a couple of tries, you're like, all right, they're obviously not interested.
Yeah.
So, but on the same time, you just gotta be like, I wish they would have just told me, I'm not going to be upset if someone, says no, if they have a reason, especially too, or maybe they don't believe in it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wish they, instead of just leaving us on what is it, the
red,
that you'd come back and let us know. But I don't hold any grudges on it either, though.
Yeah, you got to keep going.
Yeah, it's just like they had their reasons.
Yeah,
they had their reasons, and that's just the end of it. So
and the third one, what's the third one, guys?
It's a good question.
The toughest thing about here, like culturally?
No, that you mentioned 3 barriers. What would
3 barriers? Probably not just RGV related, but what about the property taxes?
Oh yeah. Well,
I've never seen a place that's like I mean, if you think about like the RGV is considered like we have so many cities that are considered part of like the the lowest income producing areas in the state of Texas, and then yet our property value just goes up and up and up, and just there's only 2 counties, so you can't. I mean, you can only point your fingers in both directions, but both of them, you just look at them and you're like, how do you do this? And
how do you justify it?
How do you justify it? And then on top of that, these counties employ people whose only job is to go out and find a way to increase your property value. So you're paying for that as well. You're paying someone to go out there and take more money from you. And it's just like, at some point, you're just like, man, don't you want people here to have their own homes? Like they can't have their own homes if you keep raising the property value.
And
we can't be successful in business if you keep doing that as well. And that's, it trickles over to the business, because even though we don't, if we're looking for a place to buy, we have to look at that property value, the property taxes on there. And then of course we get taxed on all of our equipment.
And my personal spin on that is there's a little thing called back in history is taxation without representation. It's like, where the hell is all this money going?
Right.
Where's the parks? Where's the improvement of the streets and better law enforcement training and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's totally
some other personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. My opinion,
that might be dipping a little too much into politics
Yeah.
that we like to do.
But yeah, so doing business in the Rio Grande Valley,
Yeah,
the
I don't think
956
that one's
is challenging.
Yeah, I don't think that's too far away from other areas, though.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's a lot of cities that have some of those same problems, but I will say that that family RGV network, and you know, if you connect the dot to these different like family last names and stuff like that, then that's a uniqueness that I think honestly that we've been able to work with a lot better. I think it's actually helped us a little bit.
Good.
I like it. I think the RGV, like I said, and I'll say it multiple times on this, is that family environment that's out here. I love it. I love being able to meet someone for the first time and find out that, you know, that there's 2 degrees of separation between someone else I know or someone else I'm related to or something like that. So
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I love being from the Rio Grande Valley, 956 and so forth.
and the history down here is another thing that's
well,
just
the
amazing.
pride too, you know, the
Yeah.
pride that comes out of anything that comes out from this area. It's just something that I noticed when I got here. It's very, very unique. Going back to the barriers, I think they're a little bit more personal. I personally, I didn't have any business experience. In 2020, I was stuck overseas in the Middle East for COVID, right? Everything got shut down. So they kind of came to us and they said, hey, if you want to leave now, doesn't matter if you just got here, that's fine. Leave now. But after this, it doesn't matter if your wife's on her deathbed, your kids, you're not leaving. You're stuck. So a few of us, we stayed out there, and I was there for 6.5 months. And that's kind of where I started my whole business thing. I wanted to educate myself, and I like to say I'm educated by YouTube University. I just dove in as much as I could every single day for hours and hours and hours trying to learn. And I had this idea to start a martial arts equipment company, or a company based around violence, and it's called Redefined Violence. So that's kind of where the idea came from. You know, the idea of putting the wolf in sheep's clothing, traditionally, historically, biblically, is evil hidden amongst good. I was surrounded, and I guess I've always been surrounded by people that are very capable at what they do, whether it's in martial arts or shooting or self-defense and things like that. So I wanted to tell the story a little bit differently. And that's where that's where I came up with Redefined Violence. And our logo is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So I get home. Actually, I think I filed the LLC overseas, LegalZoom. You know, shout out to LegalZoom. I just did it. You know, I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, I finished high school early, so I technically didn't really even graduate, and I just educated myself as much as possible. So back to the barrier side, I think it's what you put on yourself. And then when I get down here, we have vendor markets at the brewery all the time. People are not afraid to just start their elote business or start their trinket business. It's kind of cool to see, you know, where people are not afraid to just go after whatever it is that they want to do or want to pursue. So I think the barriers down here might exist a little bit less, at least personally or mentally, because you have that pride of things that come out of the valley. You know, even if it's scented candles out of the RGV, people are going to want to support it just because of what Kevin said. There's degrees of separation. Oh, you know what? My wife's making these leather coasters now. You know, you know what? Cool. Let me order a dozen for my ranch or a dozen for my restaurant, and that kind of snowballs. And I've seen some success stories, 5x5 being one of them, come out of the valley, where it's an amazing, like you said, it's an island. It's a culture. We're our own. Can I say we're our own thing down here?
Yeah, we are.
We are, and it's you know, it catapults. And for us, the goal is one day to get out of Texas and be a nationwide brand. We really feel like 5x5 can do that, but it will only be because of the initial support that the Valley gave the brand, the company, and everything like that. So
awesome. And when he means get out of Texas, he means the beer going out of Texas.
Yeah, the beer going out of Texas. Yeah, not get out, not 5x5 getting out, like us leaving. Just, you know, I want to be in Yankee Stadium. I want to be in Chicago's, you know, the Cubs. Like, I want to be there, and I think we can do that. And that was my first So these guys had already taken over when I was buying in. I asked them the question, like, what do you guys want to be? Do you want to be the best brewery in the Valley, or do you want to be a nationwide brand? And when they both answered, him and Stan Cummins, when they answered, oh, this could be a nationwide brand, that's when I knew. I was like, okay, it's worth my money to put into this. You know, being a good brewery in the Valley is a good, you know, it's a good thing, but it's got its limits. And I think 5x5 is bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly you can promote it and start asking for it, because a lot of people from the Valley commute and travel everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you start asking for it at different stores so they can, stock it and so forth. That may be a good idea.
Yeah.
So those are perhaps the pros or the cons, but as a business, I think there's more cons in the valley. One I want to mention is I've had other guests, and you kind of jogged my memory. The challenge is you get challenged by our own people here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had some friends of the podcast, some comedians, where they find it challenging. Well, you got to be funnier than their funniest uncle type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So how do you make your beer, better than the next competitor? Because we can say, okay, let's try 5x5, and does it really taste better? How do you do that, or explain that situation to me? Because
my philosophy,
so you got to be better.
I mean, on that
so you can get say, oh, okay, you know what? Yeah, he was right. I'm gonna buy more 5x5.
Yeah. I don't know if this is going to be controversial or not, but my opinion, at least, my philosophy is to not pay attention to anybody else. We're trying to make the best product. And I don't want to sidestep the question, but that's truly the way that I think, the way that I see it. Even with my other company or now the protein ice cream company, I'm not paying attention to anything of what everybody else is doing. If we can make rash guards, we're focused. And it sounds a little bit ignorant, but I don't want to compete with anybody because there's no competitors for us out there. We are who we are. And if you want to catch up with us, great. If you want to go ahead of us, great. But that's a good personal philosophy for life too. I want Kevin to do better than me. I want you to do better than me. I want, your videographer, everybody to do better than me. That's the type of attitude you should have. And when I started to have that attitude, more doors opened up for me instead of competing with someone. And I think that transfers over to business, because then we're open to things like collaborations that might help us out. It might help them a little bit more, but it still helps us out as well. So at least that's my answer for it is, I don't really, we know some competitors out there, but they're not.
I wonder if we can show some of your products up there, Roland. If we can bring up and show
Would you agree with that, Kevin, my answer?
I know, I like your answer though. I was ready to go on a rant because you kind of jarred another thing. This is actually another barrier that I didn't even think about for the Valley. So, and I've seen this. So I'll plug my sister-in-law's company too. So she makes Capadona Ranch mesquite products. So I've seen it with their business as well. A very unique thing that they're doing where they're taking the mesquite bean and they're making mesquite flour, mesquite coffee, mesquite tea, mesquite jellies. Really, my favorite one's the mesquite jelly with chili pekin. Once you have it, it's amazing, right? So it's really good. And I see this with 5x5 too, is that because we're local, that's the other thing, is that anyone in the RGV, when it comes to everybody wants you to donate. Can you donate this for this? Donate this for this cause? And, and that's great. And we want to help out. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes RGV wants to donate you into bankruptcy. Because at the same time,
for sponsorship,
can you just, hey, can you throw some stuff out here? And it goes, well, I know you guys sometimes come out and I'll see you drink 5x5 a little bit, but I see you guys drinking Coors Light a lot, and Miller Lite a lot, and some of those other brands. And that's when I think of competition. That's what I think of is like, well, why aren't you buying? Like, I mean, if you bought our beer more often, then we'd be able to do more donations. But when you come out and buy a 6-pack of ours, and then you end up buying a Queso Modelo or Coors Light or Keystones or whatever, then why don't you?
Who drinks Keystone? Nobody.
Nobody. You see, that's why you're not putting 9, 5, 6. You got a little bit more time.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your different styles here.
So FOOBAR is going to be an Irish red. And most of our stuff is going to be a little bit more on the higher alcohol content side. So, but yeah, FOOBAR, it's all malty. We don't really we have a couple of IPAs that have that hoppiness flavor that most people think of craft breweries are at. But, so FOOBAR is going to be your Irish red, traditional Irish red.
Okay.
It's very good. Los Vaqueros, which most people are probably familiar with, is going to be a blood orange Kolsch.
Nice.
Kolsch is going to be typically a lighter, crisper kind of beer. And it makes it easy to kind of mix different fruits and whatever in it. But there's really, I mean, the thing that makes that one, that's such a unique beer because I've kind of drank almost everywhere. I've tried a lot of different breweries. I've been all over the place and I've never seen anything as unique as what that beer is.
Okay.
I don't know why, but for some reason we did it and we did it right. And thankfully UTRGV picked it up and now everyone's kind of realizes that it's such a unique and good beer. Our Brunet Bombshell.
Well, is that going to be available at the football games?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna have our own branded kiosk inside the stadium. It'll be sold at, my understanding, all the kiosks.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be sold at all. There's going to be 4 kiosks at the stadium. One of them is going to be all kind of, I guess we'll say, tatted up 5x5.
5x5, yeah.
But all 4 kiosks should have.
When is the first game?
August 28th. Please don't necessarily quote me on that, but I think it's August 28th, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I need to try to get some tickets for that game.
What? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I need to try to get some tickets for that game.
Yeah.
The Brunet Bombshell is a honey brown ale. That's a unique one too. So that's our highest ABV one. So that's like 8.6% like alcohol.
Okay.
I know
the name, the Bombshell.
Yeah, well, it's also, that's why I call it the Brunet Bombshell, because like a brunette, it can get a little dangerous. You can get a little wild with that one. But the brown ales are typically not known for being like, I don't know, like usually like if I'm looking at a menu and I see a brown ale, I'll kind of sometimes skip over it. But with the honey on there, I guess it kind of makes it a little smoother. Yeah. So I know like my wife, that's one of my wife's favorite ones. Is that one that's been a popular one everywhere we go. People just see the honey brown ale, they'll try it, and then all of a sudden they're just like, wow, this is terrific.
Yeah. Okay. And so which one would you probably like if I'm cooking out, having fajitas and some ribs, which one would you recommend?
Ooh, for that one, well, it's not on there yet, but we just we just came out with
there's 2 of them, I would say.
Well, there's 2 of them.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea because here in the Rio Grande Valley, everybody cooks out.
Yeah.
So you need to, that maybe an idea. You need something to promote for that cooking out.
There's one called El La Madre.
Yeah.
It's a la Madre, but it's El La Madre.
Because it's an ale.
It's a golden ale. That's our lightest ABV, 3.9. Our distributor said, hey, you need to tone it down a little bit, right? So on the ABV, so we created something.
Okay.
And you see it right there. We don't have the logo on it.
We don't have the logo.
That's only.
Okay, got
it. It says Mexican lager, which is not correct either. It's a golden ale.
Yeah, it's a golden ale. And then the one we just created, it's called the 1924, and maybe I'll give you some graphics so we can put it up on the actual podcast. But what we did is we created a beer for the Border Patrol. Right.
Yeah, tell me that story. Why did you all decide to do one for the Border Patrol?
Because of
I was gonna say so.
What's the link?
So honestly, I know I was sitting around in Lynn Summerwell, the St. Anne's Church Parish Hall, and the RGV chief Gloria came in and was giving a talk. They were giving like a kind of an update to all the ranchers out there, and they were kind of introducing her, talking about like her RGV sector, and she had mentioned something about, I think she's over, we're obviously, veteran, but man, we have all these Border Patrol guys. And I remember I kind of was always like, we need to make a beer for them or something like that. And I think Luis was the one that was just like, fuck yeah, we need to make a beer for them.
Yeah. So going back to that pride, don't take this the wrong way, Border Patrol, but you're ours, for the Rio Grande Valley, you are ours. That's something that's really, Canada has their thing, Arizona, everybody else. But for us, when you think of the Rio Grande Valley, you have to think of Border Patrol. So it was almost mandatory for us. I kind of felt, we have to do something. And when the idea, it takes a while for an idea to start and actually get into production. But, you guys were in the news all the time for whatever reasons, right? We'll just leave it at that. Some positive, some negative. And it was just for us, an opportunity for us to raise our hand and say, you know what, let's create something in support of these guys because of that pride that we keep going back to, the RGV and the 956.
So that's where the idea came from.
That's where the idea came from. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, and they it's well deserved for the organization,
right?
For the department, because there's so many agents that have done so much over the decades.
Yeah.
That never get recognized,
and a lot of them are like yourself are from the RGV.
Yeah,
and a lot aren't. A lot of guys get stationed down here too.
Well, just a disclaimer: I took an early retirement, and so I'm not affiliated with the agency anymore. I took an early retirement. I took over the family businesses, but I'm very proud to have been an agent and to have worked with a lot of the agents and work, with my coworkers. But there's so many unsung heroes that they never got recognized, and some have.
Yeah.
But there's agents out there, they miss birthdays for their family, holidays, working midnight shifts, protecting that border, patrolling that border. And, you know, operations are different now, but when I started and we used to call them the old dinosaurs, and there were some were from the Vietnam era. And it was harder to get trained and to get acclimated how operations ran in your particular sector or station, right? And so these are personal stories, and this is my opinion how I feel that a lot of agents deserve all that recognition because they never get recognized because, well, that's not why they do it. They do it because it's the right thing to do. And then it brings in its own challenges.
Right.
Because especially if you're from, you know, the Mexican heritage, but you're American, you know.
Yep.
And I recognize myself as an American because I am. But anyway,
same.
So many times that I did and other agents that saved people from the river, saved them from they were starving or from thirst. Every day was a different story, you know, of saving people, you name it,
right?
From narcotics to being, you know, taken advantage of from smugglers and so forth. But at the same time, having that empathy for them, that they're here to make a better life for themselves.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of,
but that's something that doesn't get touched on a lot, you know.
No, it doesn't, because
it's the side of what are you actually doing at the border, right? You know, yes, you're protecting the country, but at the same,
people have no
at the same time,
idea.
You're, like you said, saving people either from the river or from dangerous situations that they found themselves in on the way up, and now they're, you know, either in debt or whatever the case may be. You're actually also doing that as well, which is a side that of the story that doesn't get told a lot. You know what I mean?
No, it does, and they can't, because once you take that oath, you can't, because it's under color of law, right? And I think you can kind of understand, you know, there's some things you can't talk about. So when you're an agent, you can, under color of law, say your own interpretations and so forth.
Correct.
So, you know, you're retired. You know, you can talk about whatever you want, and that's me, right? But I still withheld, you know, the personal stories that I have and personal opinions. Especially, it's really challenging nowadays because of what's going on, and I have my own opinion about what's going on. But you know, I'm not going to get into those. But I want to kind of split hairs. I want just to recognize the Border Patrol agents. They do deserve that recognition because I've been there, right? You know, getting up, working midnight shifts when you're tired and you got to suck it up because your partner's there right next to you counting on you, and you can't be tired.
Right.
Because he's counting on you and he wants to go home that night. And you got to work, you know, that if it's whatever operation might be going on, if it's anti-narcotics or anti-smuggling, whatever is going on, right? You got people counting on you. So you can't be stressed out because of what things that might be happening at home, or because you didn't get a good night's sleep. You suck it up, right?
Right.
And they don't get recognized for that, right? And, you know, day in and day out, and they show up and get it done. So I want to split hairs. That's the only reason I want to talk about that aspect of it. I don't want to talk about the political side of it, because that's a different, you know.
Sorry, Kev, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, but that's like you were saying. I mean, those parallels to military service. You know, like you said, like missing birthdays, missing, you know, anniversaries and stuff like that, and being such a large presence in the RGV. Well, really, just even in Texas as general, is just like making this beer. We just thought that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's a lot more than a beer. We actually had to fly to Vegas. So super long story short, for the sake of your podcast.
It's a cool story though.
We weren't going to get the cans in time, right? Or the distributor, not the distributor, the logistics company. No, they were done for the manufacturer, but the logistics company wasn't going to be able to get them from Vegas to here in time for the big release party. We had already been promoting it and stuff like that.
We've been running our mouths about it.
Normally do. It was on all the group chats for BP guys. So we made the decision. We flew me out to Las Vegas to go pick up the cans and drive them back. Landed, got a rental truck, and then just drove them back to make sure they were here in time. So we actually made a video about it. It did, you know, a lot of big numbers, you know, 50, 60,000 views. And people showed up that day. Like, hey, we saw you driving out there. I'm like, hey, we said we were going to deliver it, and that's a promise. It's not only our personal names on there, but the name of 5x5 as well. So, like, you know, going back to what you said earlier in the podcast, what are you going to do? You're just going to say, hey, sorry, guys, we're going to have to postpone it. Or pull it out of your ass. And
so is it still available right now?
The re-release. Well, you want to say how many? We went through 100 cases.
100 cases of cans, and like if you think about like the amount of alcohol, if you had what we typically do, we have those slim kegs. It's 1/6 of a barrel.
Yeah.
So we went through 96 of those like slim kegs worth of beer in about 3.5, 4 hours.
4 hours. Yeah. If you've ever been to 5x5, you know, from the bar to the end of the boardwalk, we had a line for about 4 hours nonstop.
Usually our most popular where we have like that kind of a backlog is going to be like Oktoberfest. This was way more populated. I mean, Border Patrol showed up and they drank us dry.
We hardly like to drink.
The day to cross the border was that day because I don't know, you guys were running a skeleton crew out there.
Well, and then the funny thing is that I think it was a couple of days later I had gone to support the Harlingen sector at a golf tournament in Weslaco. And, you know, all these agents are coming up. They're like, hey, 5x5, man. Like, you should have brought that new BP beer, the 1924. And I was like, yeah, man, I would have. You guys drank it all. And they're like, we can drink, can't we? And I was like,
so it'll be re-released July 5th. We're going to have a re-release for everybody. Definitely going to be available in the tap room. Whatever cans we have left, we're going to make it. And the hopes is, if LNF watches this podcast, is to get these in stores for guys, you know, because there's a lot of people in Laredo, Corpus. We had people in the New Jersey. You guys have a sector in New Jersey, apparently.
Oh, everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. Messaging us like, hey, can we get some of that beer up there? I'm like, man, it's a little illegal.
Yeah, there's one in
figure out what I can do.
Puerto Rico out there as well.
Yeah. So that'd be a good thing, you know, be across.
The can just looks awesome. But and then I just got back from El Paso, kind of trying to get us into that market as well, because that's another
Not
area.
Trying, you did. You got us into
we're into the market, and we're there at the Sun City Craft Brew Festival, and we brought a few of the 1924s that we had, and I just kind of had them in the background. And when people would come up and talk to me about being Border Patrol, like one guy's like, I was like, you BP? And he goes, yeah. And he pulls out his badge and shows me. And I was like, all right, you definitely believe you. I was like, hey, I got something cool for you. And he's like, yeah. And I reach back and I pull out that can and his jaw drops. He's like, holy shit, man. And so he's like, I don't even know if I want to drink it. Well, later on, he drank it. And then he came back. He's like, this is fucking awesome. He's like, when are y'all going to get it up here? I was like, we're working on it, man. We're working on it.
Yeah, it's a process.
It's a process. It is a process. Challenging.
I totally get it.
I don't think people understand.
But the other thing we did,
I get it.
The other thing we did while we were there is I met up with the executive director for the National Border Patrol Foundation. And I dropped off a case for her so she could try it out, enjoy it. And then she's going to bring some up to Virginia, I think, and also kind of show it off a little bit. But we are in talks with them. We still have to do it's kind of still in the works, but it's been kind of approved to move forward on every time that we sell every case equivalent, you know, which is like 244 ounces or whatever that we sell of that beer. We're going to kick a little bit back to that national foundation.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just for our sake, you know, actually be give something back to.
And from what I can tell, it's a pretty good foundation. I know it's a national one, and this has kind of been mostly on the southern border, but I know talking with her, she's the wife of the spouse of a fallen agent, and so it seems like she'd be a good person to kind of help champion.
Yeah, there's unfortunately a lot of fallen agents over time and so forth. But
so we're hoping that this will do well for that, and then of course we'll be supporting some of those functions that they do, and I think they have some
that'd be great,
some beer nights at the museum, the Border Patrol Museum as well, that's out there, and so I think that's all pretty cool. So hopefully we can really ingrain ourselves into that society and give a little back.
Okay, great. What I would like to mention to our podcasters out there, tell us about your brewery. Can we go visit you? How do we get there?
We are in Mission, Texas. Absolutely.
Okay, well,
we are open. So we used to be open Wednesday through Sunday. For the tap room itself, where you can come in and have a beer. Thankfully, the RGV and Texas in general, they made us close on Wednesdays because our production is so high that we now need another production day. So it's a wonderful problem to have. We're super thankful for it. So now we're only open Thursday through Sunday, but you can come in and have a beer. If you've never been there, and if you've been in the military, LEO, or any sort of first responder, you'll really get a sense of who we are as soon as you walk into the door. We've got a wall of coins and flags, and it's a clubhouse, really, more than a professional.
What's the address so people can find you?
801 North Bryant
North
Road.
Bryant.
So it's it used to be I think it used to be the old Kmart or something that was out there way back in the day, but it's now the Mission Seed building. We're in that parking lot kind of around the backside of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's there basically off of Bryan Road and Business 83.
Where the old Kmart was.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, and you sell beer there? We can sit there and try your beers out.
Absolutely, yeah. We got a bunch of events.
We can do, you can drink beers. You can buy crowler cans and cans to take back home with you.
Okay.
And we, like Luis is just about to get into, we do a lot of events. I would say the easiest thing is probably go on and make sure you follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, it'd be great if you follow us, that way we can update you. For example, July 5th, we have our 4th of July beer mile. Every lap around our building, 5 laps around our building is a mile-ish. So after every lap, you have to drink a beer. You have to slam a beer and keep going.
Nice.
So
it's like fun.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah.
It gets a little less fun every year that I age, I think.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing in conjunction with the re-release for July 5th. So I don't know if this will be able to be out in time, but if not, no worries. We'll
do our best.
Yeah.
Because it's a process.
It is.
It's a big
editing
process.
is a
and we take pride on his work. He does good editing.
Well, like I mentioned when I met you, that's what caught my attention was the
thank
production
you.
value. So,
I'm a fan of draft beer. Do you have it available on draft?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Only there or any other restaurants in the valley, or where can, if I want to try it out?
Where to start all the restaurants? Yeah.
We have a lot of restaurants that you can find. We could probably put up a list but just name it.
Ahead.
We're there.
You can name some of
we
them.
We can't name them all. We're all across the valley.
I was like, I feel bad
SPI.
about leaving some out. If
all across the valley, Laredo, now El Paso, Corpus Christi. You can find our beer on draft all throughout South Texas.
I'm a big fan. To me, it just tastes better when it's draft beer.
Yeah,
it does.
That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I love canned beer, right? Or bottled beer.
Yeah.
Oh, is your beer available on bottle or just can?
Can.
Just can. Yeah.
Just can.
Is that something perhaps?
It's usually safer to do it in can too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you ever consider putting it in bottle?
Probably not. Bottle's kind of expensive. It's expensive to do, and that would increase the cost of the beer as well too. But then you'd have to buy a new machine to do it. Like we have a canning machine. I think honestly, cans are just the best way to go around.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other spin-off products that you're considering to do from the brewery? Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, we've got a couple products in the work right now that we're developing. 5x5 is a brand. We kind of, once we took over the company, we realized that, and there are some other things on different beverages that we can be doing that are non-alcoholic and things like that. Actually, we just got our wine license, so that allows us to make cider. So we'll be able to make some ciders as well in house and maybe put those out to market. But
serve a little wine out there too for the ladies that don't like the beer.
Yep, we now get to serve wine. So yeah, to answer your question, splitting hairs, there are some things that we're working on. We're not ready to announce them just yet, but we're really excited because 5x5, like I said, it's a national brand. I truly believe that, and give us a few years, we'll get there.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of tequila, but I don't know if you've ever considered maybe branding something like that. But
no, who's blasphemous? Who owns blasphemous? It's not tequila. It's
an agave liquor because of the location on where it's made at.
Yeah,
it's down Roma.
Down in Rome, Texas. Yeah,
he makes a really good. So he makes one that's got more of a mezcal flavor. Actually, 2 of them have the mezcal flavors, and one of them to me has more of a tequila kind of flavor too. Not as I think it's a little smoother.
Yeah.
But we've talked with him quite a bit. We actually want to take. So we have our Carlos Company Mexican lager. Carlos Company being the nickname for the Marine Reserve company, Charlie Company, that's down at Corpus Christi. And we've talked to him about maybe getting some of his barrels. Is either the mezcal or that more tequila style barrel.
Nice. That sounds really interesting.
Barrel aging the Mexican lager in there.
Oh, that's
so we might do it. We've been talking about that one. That could be a special release coming up.
Yeah. As I age, I try to stay active and eat better. Exercise. And so, do you have a product for like low carbs? Are you thinking about it, or do you have one? To drink beer, but enjoy yourself. Like you do some PT or.
We have some seltzers every now and then, I'd say the a la Madre being our lighter beer, the golden ale. Just kind of a more relaxed beer. You're at the brewery, but you don't want to drink a 6% or 8% beer. That's kind of where we're at with that one.
Yeah, because this is just me, right? My personal opinion. I love beer, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll have a tendency of, drinking some sort of spirit like tequila.
Yep.
If I'm working out, just because of the carbs and the sugars and all that.
Yeah.
The Mexican trifecta, you got diabetes, high blood pressure, and cholesterol, and all that,
Yeah.
But
well, to touch on that a little bit, that's one of the reasons we're creating some other products is to give people, because, being military LEO, first responder, you have to stay active. So some of the other products that we're developing on the non-alcoholic side are directly geared towards that and are going to give people the ability to still be around the brand and not have to drink, and a little bit more cleaner of a drink too that we're creating. So, yeah, we're excited about it.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch base. We're just kind of talking about that, your other company.
Sure, it's called Redefine Violence, and like I said, it started as just it started with just T-shirts, really, just to kind of represent people who have
what
skills.
Made you start it? Want to start it? What created the need? What did you see?
The need that I saw was everyone kind of had their own either brand or their own style, I guess you could say, their own T-shirt company, and I didn't see anybody trying to bring everything together under one house. I guess a little bit of grunt style, a little bit of Black Rifle, but those are directly, I guess, veteran oriented. So what I did is, if you know anything about martial arts, it's worldwide, right? You've got jiu-jitsu that originated in Japan. You've got, Muay Thai out of Thailand. So there's no American flags anywhere on any of our designs. There's nothing like that. And it's not because I'm not proud of where I am or the service that I've done to my country. It's more so to create an environment where it is a worldwide thing. And it's not just with martial arts, to protect yourselves as well, whether it's weapons training, archery. So let me go back. We started with just T-shirts, and then we made our first jiu-jitsu rash guard. After that, it was kind of like, oh, cool, maybe we can make products for all of the violent arts that we promote and like to do. So then we made canine collars, the 2-inch canine collars for dogs, for bite teams, for protections, and then leads as well for some canine guys, some officers. So then we added that to the roster, and then boxing gloves, MMA gloves, shorts. So now on I forgot how many products, we have like over 80 products on our website, a variety of different arts. So what I wanted to do is create a banner, create a company that would promote everybody. And then, so I like to say, it's a unifying banner for violent arts professions and survivors of violent circumstance. Because after I started the company, we didn't add survivors of violent circumstance till a little bit later, because people were reaching out and saying, hey, I love your company. I'm a survivor of sexual assault, or I'm a survivor of, a car accident, and I found jiu-jitsu. It helped me calm my mind. Or I found boxing, or I found archery, things like that. And so that's where we added survivors of violent circumstance, because sometimes you're put in a position where you have to have an intimacy with violence that you weren't prepared for. And the fight or flight that we were talking about earlier, what do? Do you just, oh crap, that happened to me, I hope it never happens again? Or do you prepare yourself in some way, form, or fashion, right? Whether it's a self-defense class at a gym, or whether it's going to the range and learning how to operate a weapon properly. But the cool thing is you get to bring communities together, because now you get to bring civilians that aren't LEOs, that aren't military, but they get to wear the same thing as someone who, got blown up in Iraq, or someone that, had an on-the-job shooting. And it brings everyone together.
They can relate to it.
They can relate to each other, right? Versus just having a T-shirt company that goes towards one specific group of
one
people.
niche in the market.
One niche in the market, exactly. That's perfect way to put it. Yeah. So that's where it came from. That's where the idea came from. And so we're e-commerce only. It's my wife and I that do everything. The second story of our house is completely full of inventory, and she hates it.
Well, you all work out and so forth. What do you all's, or do you have any products for not necessarily enhancements, but the older we get, there's so many products out there to help us, maintain our health. Like I think there's that BP 157, or what's it called, that supplement.
Supplementations.
Yeah, that supposedly help the older, people, get recovery. To recover. And then, those banana bags, IVs, where you have the B12 and all that. What are your opinions on all that?
I'm old fashioned. I'm just, I mean, I do supplementation and stuff like that. And, of course,
what kinds? Like traditional vitamins?
Yeah, traditional vitamins, vitamin D3. I do some of the glucosamine, I think. That's supposed to be like kind of for your joints and stuff since I've gotten older. But like the big things that I try to focus on are number one, sleep. And then number two, just like working out. And so that's going to be, and just having different types of workouts. So running, biking, hiking, kettlebell stuff, some HIIT workout training. Then I'll throw a little heavier weights on there, pull-ups, just stuff like that, trying to do more of that. So that way my goal is to when I want to be 80 years old, but, like operating like a 65-year-old kind of thing. Yeah. I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm not mobile.
How about you? Do you do any supplements or IVs or any other type of...
Yeah, so I was on testosterone replacement therapy for a little while. And
how did that work out for you?
It worked out great. So, there's a thing where... there's a stigma behind it, with the needles and all that, and guys that are roiding out, but if you do it the right way, if it's an actual, and this is not medical. This is
I know none of us are doctors or whatever.
This is not medical advice,
opinion.
Right? Yeah. I went to go get mine tested, and I was in the low 300s, which is not optimal, right? Even I think I got it done at 31 years old, very, very low, right? So. And that could be for a variety of reasons. I didn't have an unhealthy lifestyle. I wasn't that fat. I don't think I ever really was. But your past has a lot to do with it. Things in the military, crashes. You see it a lot with LEOs, with vets.
Oh, yeah. The eating and the stressful work and all that.
The lack of sleep. Yeah, that's a big killer.
But naturally, us as men, that level drops off.
Yeah,
just
naturally.
Yeah,
right?
naturally.
So at least... For me, it helped out. It helped out a lot. Yeah. And it's, you have to do it the right way. If your buddy Carlos has a vial, don't get it from Carlos. You know what I mean? Just go to a doctor, get blood work done, do it the right way, be monitored and things like that.
I do the DHEA supplements too, which is supposed to help build it up a little bit.
Okay.
So it kind of keeps it, because last time I got tested, it wasn't that low, but I know, like you said, but it was lower than the last time before. But they're like, oh no, you're in your range for your age. And I'm like, yeah, but like...
Yeah,
you want to hedge your odds, and I go to my medical doctor,
right?
And so they test it and so forth. So sometimes I'll take supplements for it, and because naturally they drop off the levels,
drop off,
and I'm not trying to be like a bodybuilder or whatever, but just to keep the old man out.
Right.
Going out there and do some PT and jogging, walking.
And you're not going to solve that with a needle. You can't just stick a needle in your ass and think that it's going to keep the old man out. You have to do everything.
You got to get out there. And that's what's so upsetting here in the Rio Grande Valley or anywhere is that not too many people are active. They're not going out there to stay active.
I think I'm seeing more of a tick in that direction, though. I feel like I'm seeing more people that seem to be more active
I agree.
than 10 years ago.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But not enough of it, I feel. And, because I enjoy beer.
Right.
And I want to enjoy your beer. And tacos and all that good stuff.
That's down here. Man,
there's a lot of good stuff.
Sticking with a good diet, it's tough down here. There's a great Mexican food.
But if that's all we do, I mean, shoot, we're going to get that Mexican trifecta that, diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol.
Yeah.
So I was just asking for your personal opinions. Well, how do you keep that and keep it in check so we can enjoy those things, right?
And like you said, this is hilarious. So when I first got out of active duty, again, I'm not waking up every morning doing PT, and so I'm just down here at the ranch, and I was kind of like in that little purgatory phase where I'm still kind of still looking for a job, but I still have like ETS days. I think I still have maybe 2 months or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of there while I'm looking for a job. It's also in the winter time, so my father-in-law would come back. We go grab, 6-pack, and we'd go make the welter around the ranch, look at deer, and just kind of, look at cattle, stuff like that. Well, I didn't realize this, but I guess about couple months of doing that and not doing PT, I gained a lot of weight. And my mother-in-law actually told me, she's like, you're starting to get a little fat. And, I don't take it personal, or I do, I guess, because I was like, oh my God. So then I decided, I was like, you're right, I need to go start doing something again. And at the time, there was a single CrossFit gym. CrossFit had just kind of started. I'd heard about it at one of my deployments. I did a CrossFit workout. I was like, damn, this kicked my ass. Found a CrossFit gym in McAllen, or FAR, I guess. called Ranger CrossFit. And I'm like, well, cool, man. I was like, well, I'm Ranger tabbed. I was like, I'm going to go there. So went there, and that place was just packed, and they just kicked my ass every freaking day. Yeah. And actually the guy that started that, Miguel, also comes out to the brewery a lot.
Nice. Yeah. I
can't, to complement it.
Yeah.
Right. But I read a quote, and this is a social media quote, so I can't take credit for it. Your body's part of your resume. Mm-hmm. So when you meet people, it's right off the bat, does this person care? And I don't want to say a lot of people pay attention to it, but those that do will notice it right off the bat. I was like, this guy's not even taking care of himself.
Exactly.
Right. So how is this business venture going to go? Or how is this, it can, I'm not saying it does, but it can bleed into other thoughts and other opinions that are formed about you. And then you add maybe another slip up, right? And it's like, well, of course this guy did it. You kind of have that perception already about people, but maybe that's just me because I'm an asshole. But yeah,
no, I don't think you are. I think I do it myself. Yeah. It's like I'll study people, and when I do business, and if they can't manage themselves or organize themselves or their work ethic to keep up with my velocity, I can't help but judge and say, well, is this person going to be able to keep up with me?
I think I'm a little harsher, and I love Ilios, not of course, but I'm a little harsher on people, and even in my own profession. And my profession is like it's like walking into the lion's den. If you don't PT, if you don't go shoot, like you get called out really hard, which you should, right? Because of what we do. But even on the LEO side, you should hold your partners accountable, right? I think that's a very important thing, right? And it's a tough conversation. It really is. Like, hey, bro, instead of having some beers tonight, let's go for a walk. Or something,
What you're trying to say is, you want to be SEAL Team 6, but you're looking more like Meal Team 6.
Yeah, things like that. And
that's a good one.
The work that you guys do, the shift work, and it sucks. I understand.
It's challenging,
but it's not impossible. So a little bit more, and a little bit more accountability within your buddy, because that's all you're trying to do.
It is challenging, and I remember when I was, an agent, that I was gaining some pounds.
Yeah,
because the shift work is where your body doesn't know if it's time to shit or eat, and then you do those double bags, or, you name it. There's so many different, and that's why I have so much respect for my former coworkers and agents, is that the people don't know how much it takes out of you.
Yeah.
And you being in the military or prior military, you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
if you wear a plate carrier, you should hold yourself to a higher standard. I think that. You know what I mean, it's
and so, but but the regular general public out there, it's an epidemic, where you see people out there just grossly overweight, and they're just eating Doritos and watching TV, and that's all they do. And should they sometimes go out there and do just a walk instead of watch TV, and take better health, get care of themselves,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want to be around longer for your family. I think definitely you should. That's what it is. Pull yourself out of that personal.
So you can enjoy some beers.
Yeah, you can enjoy some beers. And you can get hit by a truck tomorrow and be the fittest guy in the world. I understand that.
Yeah,
which has happened. And mine hopefully doesn't, right? But at the same time,
knock on wood there.
Knock on wood, right?
I've seen that happen more than once.
But you're supposed to, I guess,
moderation, right?
Moderation. Yeah, moderation is a big thing, but also just take care of yourself while you're here.
Hey, I will say, even working at or being at the brewery now, like I gotta. There's some times where we're just there, and 5 o'clock is like, I'll just have one or before I go home or whatever. And it's like you can't be doing that every day as a brewery owner. You make the product. Was it don't get high on your own supply?
Yeah,
that's I've caught myself a couple times. Like,
put a treadmill there.
Yeah. Well,
I like a little treadmill there.
Well, I like to use the Catholic religion to help me. They'll make fun of me because I'll give up beer for Lent.
Oh, okay.
We don't make fun of you that much.
Well, let me rephrase that. They'll make fun of me just for that during that time frame, and then afterwards they'll find something else. So,
okay.
That's what I think. That's it's all that we could segue into that. That's the great thing about being veterans and LEOs is that you can talk shit to someone to their face, and that's like you're going to be your best friend in the world. When I was in El Paso, I think I did that. I was talking shit to one of the guys comes up and he's like, he goes, I'm in the military. He goes, I'm assuming you are with the way you're talking shit. And I was like, I am. He's like, awesome. Stay over. And we talked for a while. He tried the beer. He's like, this is badass, man. I was like, yeah.
So after I retired or left the Border Patrol, I started, now I let my hair grow long and grow a beard. because we always had to be clean cut all the time. It's changed now. They joined CBP. Now Customs kind of took over the Border Patrol, and you're allowed to have a beard.
Nice.
During my time, you couldn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I see that picture up there.
Yeah. That's up. That's me up there. Yeah, up there by the river.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I have some other ones that I have mounted, and I take pride in it.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So you always have to be clean cut. So once I got unacclimated, so I started letting my hair grow and so forth. But sometimes it is challenging as businessmen. I don't know if you can relate. When you go have those big business meetings, we can't help but kind of size each other up.
Yeah.
When they don't see you clean cut, you got to meet with those attorneys or those bankers and what have you. And they see me with a long hair and and a beard and, they want to see a clean cut, I wear my suits and all that.
It's a first impression thing, right? You want to
you
want to have that first impression. I mean, I'm assuming like Alonzo could probably, Cantu could walk into some place, in a robe, and they're probably gonna not care. But
he's an interesting character. I want a podcast with him if you'll have me one day. Do you all have any type of relationship with him or met him?
I've met him a couple of times. He's a pretty quiet individual though, so I don't know.
Yeah, he seems to be a little bit introverted, and most successful people are. But anyway, so you have that company. What other company do you have, buddy?
It's called Frio's Place Protein Ice Cream. There's these two brothers that they're hilarious. They just wanted to create an ice cream with protein in it. No one was really doing that with the amount of protein that we have in our every pint is about 40 grams of protein. They wanted to create something kind of high protein and be able to itch that sweet tooth that you get when you when you're dieting or whatever. So our slogan is cheat clean. If you're going to cheat, we got a low carb thing for you. It's high in protein and it tastes really good.
Yeah, I'd like to try that.
Yeah, I'll bring you some. It's pretty good. So these brothers
I'll buy you some.
They're amazing. It's we're now across all the shacks in the valley, All-Star Nutrition as well.
Okay.
And that happened within a couple of months, so it's pretty great to be involved with those guys. And what I try to bring to the table with them is just to get them out of their comfort zone and say, hey, go and ask. Same thing. That's how I got involved with these guys. I just one day, when I first walked into 5x5, I was like, man, it'd be awesome. Years ago, love to be a part of this place. And then I just got out of my comfort zone and I asked, like, hey, is there any room in the partnership or anything like that? And they're like, yeah, we'll sit down and have a meeting with you. And they had already known me from Redefined Violence. We had done a project together with 5x5, a couple events out there as well. And so I think that's
it's a protein ice cream.
Protein ice cream. Yep. Protein ice cream.
So what flavors are available?
Right now we have cinnamon churro.
Vanilla?
Cookies and cream, that's coming next. That's coming out next month. So we're going to do some, I guess, basic flavors just to.
Because me and my wife, we go walking.
Yeah.
About 3, maybe 4 times a week. We'll do about 4 or 5 mile walks.
Okay.
And the sweet tooth, man. Right off, it's a big challenge.
Yeah.
That's like, and sometimes I break like.
I actually have to register that trademark cheat clean because it's a great way to
it's challenging, but because I'm trying to keep that old man out,
gotta keep it out.
And it's challenging. So that's my challenge. So
and ice cream's good. That's probably my advice on that.
The way we make it, it's cottage cheese, yogurt, protein, milk. It's all good things. Nothing in there.
No, if I've tried it, I'm gonna try it now.
You haven't tried it?
Oh, you haven't tried it?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you if it was any good.
That's great. I mean, we had to remake the formula or redo the formula a little bit, but we finally got it to the
tweaked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really good. It's flying off the shelves.
You have it in places here in at Couch also?
No. It's, like I said, unless there's a Shack Supplements. No, because I do the inventory and I haven't come all the way up here.
We have a great walking trail here in Ed Couch also.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be the old railroad track.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And they've made it into a walking trail. So you can and there's a dog park in there, and there's some spots where you can work out, and use your own weight and all that.
Nice.
The only thing is I haven't talked to them, and I think it'd be a great idea here in our community is having somebody that can come and do like an in-service, bring the public out there and show them how to use that equipment out there. But they spent a lot of money on that. I'm proud of my community that they did that. Yeah. So the railroad used to go through here because there was a bunch of packing sheds. So those easements got, I guess, bought or converted. Somehow the city ended up there.
Yeah.
So imagine just miles of strip, right? A railroad track where they would go, and they converted it into a nice, walking trail.
That's good.
Yeah, so much needed. I hope it keeps and continues down the road. And
well, this is a beautiful area, so I mean, that even makes it better that you can go out and actually enjoy it.
I think the secret's not out, but it's coming this way.
It's nowhere to go but north.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful area out here.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud to be from this community, from the Delta area. Well, I'm proud to be from the Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah.
So we have that walking trail out here, jogging trail, and a lot of people use it and so forth. It's pretty popular out here. But I think we need more of that around the valley, Rio Grande Valley. And there's mountain bike trails like in Mission, Harlingen, right? I've done the Mission trails. The funny story about the Mission trails, I don't know, and former or active Border Patrol agents are going to know about this. A lot of those trails used to be smuggling trails. It used to be private land.
Really?
So when I go bicycling once in a while, when I do go, I recall catching groups or working those trails as an agent.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, because they go down all the way to Benton State Park.
Oh, okay.
And it comes out to, it's called El Cochillo, right? It's a community out there south of Mission. And I remember setting up there and near Pepe's by the river, which doesn't exist anymore, all that area. But that's a little tidbit of information. Those and then they became now they're bicycling trails, walking trails, and I don't know how they went about it to purchase that land and convert it. But those used to be smuggling trails or people. Yeah,
pretty wild.
Yeah.
I was hearing some stories like that in El Paso where one of the ladies was telling me, she's like, oh, there's this beautiful little hike you can do up this like little mountain hillside. And I think it's about a mile and a half in total, maybe. And you get to go through and there's like the Stations of the Cross. So she's like, oh, if you're religious or if your wife's religious, you get to go and do that. She goes, but it's also known for being like, it's a big smuggling area. So she goes, I wouldn't send your wife alone though. And if you go, you probably should go packing. I was like, all right, no problem. I can do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories out there, especially out there in the Santa Ana Wildlife Refuge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unofficially, I guess I'm not under the color of law anymore. I'm no longer an agent, but there was incidents and never got reported where the Mexican military crossed over, and we had agents and that would see them. And so forth, but that's a different, totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and a lot of my buddies and have their own stories, and I promise some of them that one day we'll do one podcast and talk about just all of
it out.
So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet, and let those stories out there. But there's billions of them, and every agent has their own stories.
Oh yeah.
Even some ghost stories and what have you.
How quickly would you say the hiring process is for Border Patrol nowadays?
I think this is my opinion.
Right.
It's not long enough.
It's not long enough. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the term where, quality suffers with quantity? Kind of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still outstanding agents out there. Outstanding.
Right.
But when I went in, the whole process maybe took me about a year and a half-ish.
Oh, wow.
Close to 2 years. Just the first part of it, I would have started the process back in more or less, I think, 1997. And when you apply, you have to pass the examination. And you're making me kind of, okay. And then took the exam, took months to get the score. And then you start your background, and then the physical, and then the investigation where they go talk to your teachers and your neighbors and make sure you're not,
you're a quality person.
What you call 10-7, and all that, and to make sure, right?
Yeah.
So it was a good process. Well, I feel it was a good process. Then you go through the hiring board. It was usually 3 agents, and they cross-examine you with different situations to see how you react.
Wow.
And then let me see. So the whole process, it was a year and a half-ish, close to 2 years. Now, from what I understand, and don't quote me on this because I haven't kept up with it because I don't need to, right? But I think from testing to training, you can be 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Which I feel is a tad too soon.
So fast.
If you're going to get a quality
Yeah.
agent,
Right.
right? Because now when I went to training, and I actually have a story. I paid for my badge twice, and the story behind that is I got hurt.
Mhm.
I hyperextended my left knee, complete tear on my ACL. So what we call, I had to go back, start again after I got well, and we call it retread,
Mhm.
like retreading
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I went and did it all over again. So it took about 5.5 months. So the first time I went, my first training was in Charleston, South Carolina,
Mhm.
an old Navy base. And the second time was in Glencoe, Georgia,
Okay.
at FLETC.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of
Mm.
federal,
Yeah,
the
my
federal
wife-
law enforcement.
My wife actually attended the FLETC in Charleston, so I think that's it
Yeah.
converted over to a FLETC.
Oh, they converted it into a FLETC?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
straight up FLETC now.
Because back then, which would have been in 98,
Mhm.
98, 99, it was just U.S. Border Patrol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and it was an old military base with a bunch of old Navy ships. And when they would take us to the driving instructing campus, they'd bus us into another where they had the submarines.
Mm.
And so it was really interesting.
Nice.
Beautiful part of the country.
Yeah.
I did experience some different type of racism.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty interesting.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Being trained as an agent
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and experiencing that
Yeah.
culture,
Right.
because that's the old, what they consider the old South.
Right.
But that's another story.
Another story. Yeah. You're like, I'm
But-
training to protect you.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all good.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is this is something we can talk about. We're going to be starting a foundation. We're going to call it the Loud and Clear Foundation. So for those who don't know what 5x5 actually means, it's the precursor to Loud and Clear over the radio. World War II, right? Or World War I?
Like World War II, Korea.
World War II, Korea is like you'd come over the radio, say, "Hey, how do you have me? I have you 5x5, right?"
Okay.
Nowadays you say, "I have you Loud and Clear."
Some agencies still use it, and ham radio operators, I think, still
Yeah.
have that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's clarity and volume,
Mm.
right?
And then
So-
you have like the little the dials that, not the dials, but the LED, like dots that will go through, and you can actually measure it. So where you can
Okay,
see-
so that's where the name comes. I've been
Right.
meaning to ask you what
Yeah.
5x5 means.
Yeah. So the foundation that we're going to start, we're going to flip it a little bit. It's going to be called the Loud and Clear Foundation. And our goal with that's in its infancy right now, but our goal with that is to create a board of, individuals that can find job placement for people that are getting out of the military, for vets
Okay.
that are coming out. It was a personal struggle of mine, obviously, I talked about there. And we have people call us all the time. Hey, you guys hiring? They're vets. They know that we are one of the bigger veteran-owned companies down here in the Valley. So they call and say, hey, you guys hiring? I'm getting out of the Army, or I'm getting out of this. And we can't hire everybody. We can't.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
But what we've found is that we all know enough people that
kind of goes back into that RGV network.
RGV network. So we're like, hey, let's create it. We'll want to create a panel of, odd number, even number
People
of
hiring.
Yeah, to where, hey, we can't get you a job, but within 3 phone calls of each of us, 10 people, we'll find you something. You might have to work 2 nowadays, to make ends meet. But I want to take that insecurity away from
Yeah.
people that are coming home.
Or you can have other people post on there if they're hiring, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different avenues, and that was one of the reasons that I asked about board. It'd be great to have, because some people that are coming home, especially out of the mail, they might want to go into the Border Patrol, just direct contact with.
Oh, it'd be a
recruiter
great
or something.
opportunity.
Yeah, just
I almost did that when I got out. I was starting an interview with ICE actually,
yeah.
and then bam, hiring freeze on the federal level.
Oh, okay.
And that thing just kind of went on a lot longer than I thought. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
it's like I'm going to find something.
And now
different.
here you are owning 5x5 Brewing.
That's when I got into the healthcare industry.
No.
Yeah, okay. The training's changed. I do know that. I've
Mhm.
kept up with some of my friends, and the training, we used to have boxing,
Mhm.
and we used to have you had to, so you could acclimate to the Spanish language. We would call them native and non-native speakers.
Mhm.
Right.
So we would get the non-native speakers to enter groups with us so they could learn the language, right?
Mhm.
Well, now if you are a native speaker, you can test out of it, so you can get out of the academy even faster.
Oh, wow.
My opinion about that is I don't like it because you don't get that camaraderie, with the other classmates,
Right.
to get to know each other and to learn to work together.
Yeah.
That's true. Very good.
Yeah, but that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Well, they
So-
also have native speakers from a different area. So not that I'm gonna dime them out on this, but one of my soldiers in the reserve unit is with the Border Patrol and came from Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that type of Spanish is different than
Way
the Norteño Spanish down here.
I never noticed.
It's they
I think sarcastic.
it gets me again.
I caught you again.
Yeah.
When they come up. Yeah. So
So, I mean, but that's oh yeah, you're a native speaker, and it's like, well, I mean, kind of. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
You're right.
Yeah, there's the different dialects
Mhm.
and all that. But so there's that, and then the boxing.
Mhm.
From what I understand, maybe they changed it, right?
Right.
They took it out. So
Mhm.
boxing, I think, was really important because
I think they're big into jujitsu now. I see a lot of Asians are doing jujitsu.
okay,
But the boxing's good.
Brazilian.
I went through the Corpus Christi Police Academy, and they had a boxing day where we went and we got, we stepped into the ring with golden gloves, and actually but like you were about to touch on, you get that impact of just
yeah,
what the hell is going on.
Exactly.
You think you can box if you're not a boxer. You think you can until you get in there with somebody who knows what they're doing.
oh
Yeah.
And the decision making of not being able to make a decision as you're getting hit is pretty interesting.
So I think it was
Mike
really
Tyson's
important.
famous quote:
Yeah,
"Everyone's got a plan until they get
They get
punched in
punched
the
in the
face."
face.
Exactly, it's true.
yeah,
So I think it was really important to have that part of the curriculum where you had to have boxing,
Mhm.
and I think they took it out. Hopefully
Really?
they put it back
yeah,
in.
maybe.
Yeah. And what was interesting and fun, and this is again my opinion and my version, the instructors would really have fun with it. I'll tell you what they would do, well, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
They would get the biggest guy
Mhm.
with the smallest, or the smallest girl with the biggest guy. And the justification was, hey, if you're out there in the line, you're not going to pick who's going to kick your ass.
Mhm.
Right.
So you got to learn now how to defend yourself. I said, okay. So, and they would videotape it,
Wow. Yeah.
the instructors. And so that was interesting. So I guess it was interesting.
I got a picture. I went through the ring. I almost fell on the floor. Luckily there was like a table right there that caught me. But so the way Corpus did it, I can't remember the name of the gym, and I apologize. But they took us to a local gym with some world class fighters, and they didn't make us fight each other.
Yeah.
They made us fight them.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
that was interesting. Like I said, I was like, yeah, I kind of know how to box.
Well, there was some of the guys that were, boxers,
Right.
not professional boxers,
Right.
but they knew how to box,
Right.
and they kept quiet.
Yeah.
And they whooped some ass.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
They're like, dude, I didn't know you could box. Well, guess what? Yeah, you do.
Yeah. It's better to stay quiet.
Yeah.
Well,
And then,
that happened. That was me in the Army when we started doing, jujitsu. And the first person that I was like, man, I'm 6'4". They put me with a little short guy,
Mhm.
and he fucking balled me up quickly. And that's when I looked over and I'm like, crap, dude, that guy's got cauliflower ears, this and that.
yeah.
Turns out he was an alternate
Alternate.
on the U.S. Army Olympic team.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just an alternate though.
Yeah. One of the other important, I think, part of the curriculums to get certified to carry was the pepper spray, the OC spray.
Right.
And for us, and I don't know what the curriculum is now, part of the instruction, but that one I think was really great training at the academy, because what they would do is put up scenarios they would pepper spray.
Mhm.
And I think ours at the time, at least, was a lot more intensive.
Yeah.
They would make you do like jumping jacks.
Yeah.
Some sort of PT.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And they would keep fooling you. They, like they wouldn't tell you when they were going to spray you. And they really sprayed like a lot of pepper spray in your eyes. Right. Like,
Yeah.
And,
I'm just laughing at the videos that you had recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then what they would do is they would make you do a scenario or two.
With it.
Yeah. An
Yeah.
arrest scenario, because, and that training helped me because I had a situation like that later. And actually when I got accidentally also sprayed by my partner when we were trying to make an arrest on an individual that was what we call 10-7. He wasn't, mentally
Right.
all there.
There.
And so, yeah, that's a different story. So, yeah, the training, I think back then was, in my opinion, this is my opinion, and it was better. I think the longer, the better.
Right.
If you speed it up, I think you're going to,
Yeah.
not do too good. And
Yeah, and how much of that is, budget cuts or different people in leadership, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's the agents that are going through it get handicapped because of other things. Maybe they didn't want to, but it's also
Yeah, there's probably maybe good reasons, but
maybe not good reasons, but reasons in general.
I was trying to be diplomatic. Okay, I was trying to be diplomatic, but it's interesting. So, hey, one other question. So you ran for Congress?
I did. I ran.
I want to hear about that. There we go, U.S. Congress. Yay!
I ran in the primary election in 2024, and against Michael Cloud. It was a Texas 27th district. It was prior
Where's
to
that
us, Corpus Christi.
Oh, okay.
Corpus Christi, Victoria. That area is prior to us moving down here fully. My wife hadn't gotten the job yet. It was a great experience for me. I was in the Middle East in October. I got home October 13th, and early November I filed my candidacy. I made the decision kind of on the way home. I don't want to say it wasn't a serious candidacy. It's just something that I felt I really needed to do. My vision on politics is wanting to strive for what it was intended to be versus falling into kind of the norms of what it is now and everybody kind of going along to get along.
So what do you feel it was intended to?
So the premise behind my campaign was term limits, right? And I called out the incumbent. This was the 6th year. He was going for another term. I wanted to ask, and I did in a couple of videos, what is it about you as a person that feels that you specifically need to carry the baton, right? To me, that's a kind of a way of looking at politics and looking at you as my constituent and saying, no, I'm the only one. You need to trust me. Now, there's a little bit of he's been there already. He kind of knows the name of the game. And then I've heard the other argument, well, it takes them a couple of years to really know what they're doing. Get paid $174,000 a year. Name me another job where you get paid that amount of money and you got 2 years to learn the job, right? There's guys making a lot less where you've got to pick it up. And I know there's intricacies there. But
are they millionaires now?
A lot of them are, and I don't think, this is just, again, my personal opinion, our founding fathers intended.
They're pretty good investors.
Yeah, they're really great investors.
A little too good, right?
Yeah. And I don't think that our founding fathers intended that. Again, this is just my opinion, my interpretation of what I see in our country, where being a politician was a lifelong endeavor. And again, I don't know if I should say this as a 5x5 representative, but I do not think that you are a public servant. I think that you're a public employee at that point. There's a different title, right? A public servant is what we talked about, right? The LEOs and the people like that. For me, you're a public employee. So you should remove that title from the way that you think of yourself, right? But back to the campaign, the premise was term limits. So I just kept calling him out. Why you? Why?
What would he
tell
say?
Me nothing. He would. The first time I encountered him, his handlers literally got in between us. They were not happy because I kind of ambushed him a little bit. Ambush tactics, right? So I ambushed him a little bit. They weren't happy that I was there. They tried to get me to stop talking, but I got to know him. I got to know Michael Cloud, but he never gave me a direct answer on why still him. So it begs the question to me is, what is it about people that makes them think that they are the only ones that can solve issues and solve problems in a thing like a representative republic that we have? Why do you think you're still the only one? And not getting an answer to any of those questions. I'd love to talk to more politicians.
Would he? Would he talk to you about it?
I don't think so. No. I don't.
So you never debated?
No. We did town halls, but they never direct me allowed to ask a question to him.
Maybe because of his influence.
Because of his influence. And then what I noticed, people would come up to him and say, hey, man, I totally agree with you. Little political groups within the Republican Party, I agree with you. I think you're awesome. However, we got to back him because he's got a better chance of winning. So what we don't want to do is show you support and then he wins and then we're kind of screwed, right? Yeah. Or fundraisers or whatever the case may be. So the political world, and I know you've had Vicente here, right?
Yes.
The political world is very... toxic. I'll just go ahead and say it. It's a toxic world to get into and claw into. I did the entire campaign with 20,000.
As human beings, we're all political animals,
right? But when you think of your politicians, are they up there for themselves or are they up there for the betterment of the people? And that can be, to me, answered as simple as how many town halls do you do in between election cycles? Mm-hmm. Right? You have time during election cycle, but how many times in the middle?
But I also feel that sometimes we're ourselves to blame.
I think so too.
To put up with the bullshit.
100%. Agree. 100%.
We're the numbers.
Right. Mm-hmm. We are. And that's that's where the mentality came from, is being frustrated with the political landscape. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna run for Congress, you know. And like I said, I did the whole thing with the 20 grand. So a lot of it was.
So you recognized yourself as a Republican, Democrat, liberal?
Republican. Yeah,
Republican.
I recognize myself as a Republican.
And he was
also, so I was running in the primary. He's also a Republican.
Oh, okay,
so this was for
it.
the primary election. But yeah, you know, it was an experience that I take with me forever, and it allowed me to do a bunch of other things. You know, it allowed me to get out of my shell.
How close was the election?
I came in 3rd out of 4th, so not bad for my first time out, you know.
Okay.
However, the
right?
winner spent
Literally.
and you know, you can't quote me from direct numbers. The winner spent about $350,000. The second place spent about $500,000, and then I spent about 20 grand. So I think our dollar per vote was pretty good. I just didn't have enough dollars to get that many votes. So that's what it was. I tried to do a social media campaign and do things like that, or it was really grassroots, you know. But I'd say one of the more amazing things is when, you know, some lady comes up to you after a town hall and says, I love what you said. Here's $20 out of my purse for your campaign. Here's a $50 check. That is an experience that is just, I mean, it left me speechless. You know, I remember calling my wife, leaving those, thinking, holy shit, these people don't know me, but they believed in the 3 minutes that I just had with them, you know, being able to speak to them. They believed in that enough to give me whatever they gave me. You know?
There's a little more value in those dollars.
Yeah, a lot more value in those dollars. So, yeah, I don't know that I'll ever do it again, but it's something I had to get out of my system for sure, because that's kind of the way I view politics. Is we should strive for greater as people, and the politicians should strive for, hey, maybe my time is run out. I wonder if anybody else has any good ideas. I wonder if they can do the job. So
that's the way it should be.
The way I announced the campaign, and I've got a video about it. I went to his office in Corpus Christi. I did in front of it. I basically asked him, I said, we can start a new form of politics where a seasoned incumbent passes the torch to someone that's willing to take it a little bit further, right? And my pledge, I think, was for 2 terms, 4 years. Maybe you can get a lot done. Maybe you can't. How effective are you in the job if you know you only have a certain amount of time to do it? Now, there's a swamp. There's a lot of bullshit that I'm sure you have to deal with when you get there, and it's not that easy. But if we could send more representatives that are willing to work through problems instead of just saying, hey, this is just what my party wants, we're going to get it, there's no compromise, it's our way or no way, you know, I think our country would move further a little bit more.
Isn't it even like, I mean, isn't like the more senior you are, don't you have to run less? Isn't it 3 years if you're a senior Congress, or is that just on the Senate side?
That's on the Senate side.
But it's only for senior senators,
I believe.
So it's almost like it's incentivized.
Some Senate races aren't held directly on regular election cycles. I believe they're a little bit spread out. Yeah,
I don't know the actual dynamics on that, but me personally, I recognize myself as an American first. I'm an American,
right?
You know, Hispanic Mexican heritage, but I am an American,
right?
And my platform here, I've invited the Republicans, and they haven't taken up on my offer.
What do you feel that is?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And if you're watching, come on in. I want to talk to you.
Right.
A lot of people want to talk to you.
Yeah.
But Vicente took me up like that.
It's good.
So, of course.
Yeah.
And he represents our district here. And so I was really appreciative that he came and he spoke to us and all that. So I've gotten a lot of flack, you know, some people that don't agree with him. But what I want to tell them is, hey, I've invited the Republicans as well. They don't want to show up.
Yeah.
So hopefully they do.
The system was designed to work together, I think. You know, it was a 2-party system, and they did it so that the country could work based off this 2-party system. But even on the Republican side, I didn't mean to cut you off again, but real quick, even on the Republican side, they crossed their arms. Oh, that podcast is left-leaning because of whatever, right? Because you had a Democrat on first. And that's the annoying part. That's the part where it's like, why aren't you jumping at this opportunity to come and talk and voice and get your opinion out there, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the similarities for when Senator Cornyn came out to 5x5. We got a lot of flack on that because everyone thought that we had him out there as our personal guest. And we're like, well, I mean,
everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
And that's, you know, talking to Luis, I was his thing. He goes, what? We just like everybody. Just get him out there. We want to have a conversation. It doesn't matter if you don't like him. You know, I mean, there's quite a few things that he does that I don't like.
Yeah.
One of them being the Second Amendment piece of it, but still.
But that's the beauty about, let's have that conversation.
Yeah. Right now, he's a senator, so why, if he wants to come out and he wants to come out to our place, why not have him out there so we can at least talk to him?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about being a veteran, right? That's the old saying, politics is young men dying and old men talking, right? Or wars, young men dying and old men talking. When you're out there, or even, you know, on the other side, that none of that matters. You're defending something that you believe in, or else you wouldn't be there, right? Yeah. So that's where 5x5 is to us. And this is an announcement. If you're a Democrat, Republican, hold a town hall where you don't have to drink the beer. We have a great venue. You know, come out, talk to the people. That's my personal gripe, and I'll end it there. Is
law enforcement, as a military,
as a representative, you should be out there more, not just during election cycles, because you'll see it. You know, 2028 will come around, 2026. You'll see them. Hey, we're going to hold the town hall here. We're going to hold the town hall. Well, you know, you should have been doing this a little bit more and not just come around when you need something from us. Back to the donation part, right? Not just when you need something from us. Come on these podcasts. Come, you know, do other things for the community.
Well, I hope they come out here and they take up my offer. And so let's have that conversation. And I want my audience to know that they've been invited. So if they're wondering, well, why did Vincent... Why was he a guest? Well, because he took me up on my invitation, and he came. So this platform is for everybody, and let's have that conversation. Let's discuss those topics.
I mean, just looking at the last president, you know, cycle, I thought that was awesome to see, like, what is on the Joe Rogan podcast, and you have Donald, you know, Trump and Vance on there.
But he's had on Bernie as well.
He's had on Bernie as well, and you get the chance to really listen to them, like not just the platform, not just the little stuff on like CBS, like that doesn't. I don't even watch that anymore, except for like maybe you'll watch the clips later on just for laughs, but you're not getting anything out there. How are you going to answer questions in 5 minutes?
Yeah, I do believe it is fake news. Oh, I mean, you can see the influence big time. If you go to Fox, you can see where it leans to. If you watch ABC, CBS, NBC, you can see where it leans.
It's fabricated. Is what it is. It's controlled, specifically designed for you to get a specific message. You know, I'm a big fan of shows like The Newsroom and you know, old movies. The news or news anchors and just journalism in general used to be one of the highest integrity careers out there, because you were gonna take a story and present it in a non-biased way, right? But nowadays it's almost like, hey, I've got the news behind me, but you don't need to know I'm gonna tell you what the news is, right? This is what I need you.
Let me tell you what this means to you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then again, that's just my opinion. But
I think you're right.
We've lost that as a nation. You know, even on Fox, you know, it's the only one I can't watch.
I think that's why podcasting is emerging now, because you start listening to different variations, so you can make your own judgment call,
and you can see if someone's full of shit. Right. If you get someone like you across from the board that's educated and has been around, you start asking questions, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, well, you guys elected this person, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
So yeah.
Anyways. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here at the ranch. It's been an honor to have both of you, and hopefully we'll come back and hear some of those military stories.
Yeah. We'll bring some other our partners too. I'd love to bring in, you know, our Esteban, our head brewer. You know, he's really get into the science of stuff. So,
that'd be great.
Yeah. Next time we'll bring some beer.
Yeah, that'd be great. Even better. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ezra. I appreciate it, man.
It was a pleasure meeting both of you.
I'll try to reach over there. Thanks for having us.
All right, and that's a wrap.